Okay. Um, do you think we'll learn more about the Power Ranger reboot soon? I'm hoping so. I truly am hoping so. I am glad that you brought that up though, because something did drop this week that I found really fascinating and worth exploring. Jonathan Entwistle, who is about to release his Karate Kid movie this week, I believe, May 30th, if I'm not mistaken, was on social media this week, and he gave some insight in regards to the previous Power Ranger reboot that was supposed to take place. And what he discussed was rather interesting. So I wanted to bring that up. So while I don't have any news on the new reboot that they're talking about that has their showrunners and things like that in place, I do want to talk about Jonathan Entwistle's Power Rangers reboot as details have in fact begun to emerge. Um, I'm gonna bring down this banner too so you guys can kind of read it also. Um, this is, hey Jonathan, regarding your attempted Power Ranger reboot, what could it have been if it had been produced? Would it have been a new take on Mighty Morphin or something new? Additionally, did you intend to adapt unadapted Super Sentai series for Power Rangers when you took the helm of the new era of the franchise? This is what Jonathan Entwistle responded. From as early as 2018, I had created an entire new universe for Power Rangers, kind of a multiverse. It was fashionable back then, he says. I wasn't doing MMPR specifically, but Tommy Oliver was the center of the world. All the mythology was surrounding him being one of the most important people in the universe because we all know what he would become. So it was basically a time bending, huge story about stopping Draken from taking power over everything. The TV series had a kind of a cool King Arthur vibe. That was the angle, more mystical, magical to start us off. Jenny Klein, who was writing that show, also came up with a very, very cool idea for sentient colors. But alas, it never went anywhere, which sucks. I would have loved to have made that universe a reality. Somebody else also asked him a question. How far along was your Power Ranger stuff before Hasbro pulled the plug? It seems like the Percy Jackson guys are in talks for it now. What's one word of advice you'd give them? He says, I was working on Power Rangers way back in 2018 when it was with Paramount. I was writing a movie version. Then Hasbro bought E1 and it was all shaken up again. The movie was shelved. And then the TV series became the new focus. I started work on that, mapping out how that could work out with multiple movies, shows, animations. And we worked closely with Netflix on all of that. And then E1 was no more. And the whole concept of the show and movies just got lost in that shuffle. It really sucks because it was such a cool approach, Star Wars level. But I think Hasbro just couldn't get everyone behind the same approach. I think this is really fascinating in regards to what we literally just talked about when it comes to Magic the Gathering, how they got Hasbro and Netflix all on board to have the same vision. But apparently, based off of all the back and forth of acquisitions of companies, releasing companies, new CEOs, people in charge, things clearly just kind of got lost in the shuffle, right? Because he mentions he was working on Power Rangers way back in 2018 when it was at Paramount. And then Hasbro bought E1, and then that got shaken up. And then they decided to turn it from not only just a movie, but to a television series to become the new focus. They had all these plans for this big, expansive universe, but then Entertainment One was no more. And then the whole concept wound up getting lost in the shuffle. And then you got Chris Cox that kind of comes on board, right? Somebody that has a new vision for the project. For the project itself. And now it says, but I think Hasbro just couldn't get everybody behind the same approach. So now you have different visions for what you want to do. And it sounds like it was just a mess. behind the scenes over at Hasbro in regards to trying to make this kind of come to life a little bit. So that shows you the importance of making sure everybody has this, shares the same vision with you and wants to create the same thing that you want to do. But it's also fascinating outside of that what Jonathan Entwistle was seemingly trying to create, in the sense of Tommy Oliver was the center of the world. All the mythology was surrounding him being one of the most important people in the universe, because we all know what he would become. So it was basically a time-bending, huge story about stopping Draken from taking power over everything. So we would have had an introduction here to Lord Draken finally at some point in time. This TV series had a kind of really cool King Arthur vibe. That was the angle, more mystical, magical to start us off. And look, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of really dig this concept. It wasn't necessarily gonna be MMPR directly, but I'm kind of under the impression that maybe it was Tommy at the center of it, the team leader. Maybe they would have had new characters involved in here, but Tommy's future would have led to the direction of him eventually becoming Lord Draken. I think even one of Jinsaku's old claims was that, rumor wise, was that Tommy was eventually going to turn on his team. And maybe that's the idea of like him eventually becoming Lord Draken in that universe. But when he talks about time bending, it also like implies to me that like maybe there was going to be maybe a group of people that were going to go back in time. That notion of like, why don't you just kill these people when they were young, before before they acquired so much power, sort of thing. I would have been really fascinated to kind of see if that was like, all right, Tommy's the leader of our team, but he's ended up betraying us and he's become something else that that's evil, in the sense of Lord Draken. Maybe then we get ourselves a Power Ranger team that then has to go back in time and stop like Tommy from ever becoming Lord Draken or something like that. Like I have no idea, but I personally have always thought that Lord Draken would make a really great villain. We talked about how great something like a Shattered Grid certainly was, comic book wise, and how people were always asking for that concept of maybe some time bending stuff, right? Going back in time and preventing people from becoming who they eventually become, to kind of stop Lord Draken. Like I really dig that idea. Like I really dig that concept. Maybe that's an older concept now. I feel like maybe people have kind of changed their perspective since this was, I don't even remember when the Lord Draken stuff was, 2017, 2018. I have no idea. But back then it was cool to me, and it's still cool to me now. I kind of dig the premise. I know people are like, oh, Tommy is so over. I've seen a lot of people complaining about the overusage of Tommy Oliver. But you just can't help that he's an important character. I would have been completely okay with it, but I'm sure some people probably wouldn't have been. So Rob says, looks like Entwistle's vision was too ambitious for Hasbro. It seems like it. It definitely seems like it.